idea for my message this morning as I began to think about the end. First of all, I promised Robin, not that she asked me to do this, but I promised Robin that we're gonna try to make it 2 services. We're gonna end the year and we're gonna start the year with Good Danny, okay? The rest of the year, I can't guarantee you, but I'm gonna try to keep my stuff together and not go off on any of the current events that are going on, okay? Gonna try to keep it together. But don't worry, if you like Bad Danny, he always comes back. Right, Mom? He always comes back. 45 years, he comes back. He shows his beautiful, ugly head. All right. But I was thinking about the dynamic that oftentimes we grabbed a hold of in the earlier years of our faith. And maybe you didn't have that, but I know some of you did. Because we would oftentimes mark kind of God's blessing on our life or favor upon our life based on if things were going well. And when things didn't go well, we were oftentimes trying to figure out what did we miss. Anyone ever grow up that way? You're like, I knew I shouldn't have skipped a morning devotion 14 weeks ago. It's finally come. This is why I've got the flat tire, right? Because we'd also hear these great stories of faith from people who would get up and give a testimony about how they've faithfully done this and now, their transmission has 500,000 miles, and it's because they were so faithful and God's blessed their transmission. Meanwhile, we're on our 3rd transmission. Thinking, the other side of that coin is, what did you do to deserve your car to break down? Well, nothing, right? Cars just break down. And as I began to think about this past year, I know, as we saw, for about half or maybe 60% of you in the room, this was a rough year. It was a rough year, I think, around the world and in our country. And even if you are, 100% check, you believe that the things that are going on in our country or the way it's being governed, you agree 100% with all of it. I think we all can agree that things seem very unstable, very volatile. There doesn't seem to be a ton of holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah cheer out there. If you were out on the roads the 23rd or 24th, it felt like you were going to get run over at any moment. Nobody seems to be as courteous as you'd hope they'd be. Nobody seems to have the time or space to slow down. People are working to the last minute. Retail stores are extending their hours and employees are working them because they need the money. And it just feels like, it just doesn't feel like a holiday for a lot of people. It doesn't feel like time, it doesn't feel like rest. And it just feels like it's representative of this year, which has been a lot of going and going and going. And the harder some of us work, the more we feel like we're falling behind in ways, whether it's in relationship and money and resources and our health. And this is a rough year for a lot of people. And I began to look at it and I said, does it mean when we have a rough year like this that somehow we can check it off like we've stepped outside of God's goodness or faithfulness? Of course not. How do we wrestle with this? How do we wrestle with, I know as a church have done our best, not just as a church, but our entire nonprofit organization, to stand up for people, to be a part of the safety net to catch people when they go through something in life and they have no other opportunities or resources to help get them out of it. We've tried our best to expand that, to be a part of that. And it can be disheartening to see that the more we have tried to meet people and their needs, the more people there are in need. And I think that for a lot of us, we feel that way on the inside too. Feels like the more we try to take care of our families, our lives, our health, whatever it might be, the more need, the more things there are, the more obstacles there are. And I just wanted to look at that for a moment and try to go to, quite frankly, the wisest book that you'll ever read. The stories in here, you can find hope, not fake hope. You can find understanding. You can find stuff in here you can't find in any other book. And I do really believe these are the words of not just God, but words of life. And I want to say this to you, whether you're feeling relief, gratitude, fatigue, disappointment, we're still here. We're still here. We could have relationships that have fallen apart. We could have jobs that changed. We could have houses we've lost, cars we've crashed, stocks we should have sold, whatever it might be. But we're here. And sometimes we see survival as failure. And sometimes you can go through a season of your life where survival is actually the greatest success you can have in that season. And if you're here, which you are, although my dad used to say that the reason we're all here is because we're not all there. But you're here. We made it. We may have some bumps, some bruises. We may be like some folks here I talked to before service, like just get through the holidays, get it over, because I've had so many moments of heartache and I just want this year to pass. But we're here. And I want to jump into this, but I want to tell you, and I'm not comparing my story to anyone else's by any means, but I went through a period of time in my life where I just simply wanted to fast forward to either me not being here anymore or just fast forward like 10 years so that the pain that I was feeling in that moment would be gone. I went through a period of time where I know this is hard for you to picture and maybe disturbing for some of you, but I would just lay in my bed in the fetal position in the middle of the day and just with not knowing what to do. Just so racked with fear, anxiety, disappointment, didn't know where I would be, where I would end up, worried about my relationship with my children, all of the things converging at one time. A lot of it I brought on myself and some of it just happened. But I promise you that in those situations, it doesn't matter whether it's all your fault or all somebody else's fault. If you find yourself feeling that way, the weight can become unbearable. And I can tell you that there were moments in those dark places for me. There were moments where I found hope just in time. I found a reason to get back up just in time. Sometimes it was something I read, sometimes it was something that was said, sometimes it was a look. I'll tell you one thing, as much as Norm picks on me down here, him and his wife were a part of this church when I went through that season of my life. It was over in the other building. And there were others in the room that did the same thing, so don't say, I did that too, and then write me an email and say we're leaving and all that. Don't do that, please. But I specifically remember over and over again, Norm and his wife would come up to me. Sometimes I'd wander in and sit on the front row, look like I was lost in my own church, not like I own it, but in the church that I pastored. And Norm would come over to me and give me a hug, and he'd say to me, can't wait till you're back up there preaching again. Karen and I are behind you. And when 80% or more of the church left, and along with it, that percentage of income, Norm gave more. Now, I know we're not supposed to tell this kind of stuff, but Norm and his wife gave more. There were some Sundays where him and his wife, now he's not, don't try to hit him up afterwards. They live very simple lives, but very sacrificially gave. There were Sundays where the offering was so low that Norm's was like half of it. And sometimes it was something like that made me go, things are going to turn around. And when I began to shift and change my mind from what else can go wrong to where am I missing moments of hope? Where am I missing? There could be 1,000 people that counted you out or me out. Sometimes all it takes 1 or 2 or 10 or whatever it is to look you in the eyes and say, I believe in you. You're going to get through this. You're going to survive this. Kurt was around here for that time too. Many of you were. Most of our board members, they're still our board members, were around during that time. And I'm telling you that we find this over and over and over again in the word. In Lamentations, Jeremiah is writing coming from a place of great devastation. From a place of great devastation, not victory, not mountaintop stuff. And God's mercy somehow meets Jeremiah in the rubble, in the dust and the debris, in the fetal position, in the getting up in the morning and reporting to work and just wondering, why do I keep doing this? I'm getting nowhere. And this is what is written from that place of devastation, from that place of rubble, from that place of utter destruction. He writes, the Lord's acts of mercy indeed do not end. For his compassions do not fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And I can break all that down, but I just want to take that third line, they are new every morning. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think the reason they have to be new every morning is because about by 5 o'clock, we've talked ourselves out of the morning. The morning mercy, we've talked ourselves out of it maybe by 2, maybe by 10 a.m. So it's like, we're going to renew this every morning until you know that God is chasing you with his mercy and his grace. Because it feels like I need another shot of that tomorrow morning or I can't get through the day. And it doesn't fix things, it doesn't make things okay, but it's just enough to get by, to keep going another day so that we can get back to where we were supposed to be or beyond that. And I looked at this and I just read this and I thought, man, this is, if you came close to burnout or bitterness or quitting in 2025, look for that new mercy every morning. It's going to look different for every person in this room. It could be a pet. It could be the sun shining. It could be, I've still got my job. It could be a phone call or a text from a friend. But look for that new mercy every morning that gets you going and back in it, because things will get better. Do you hear me? I had a therapist tell me one time, you said, you have a therapist? I have a couple of them. I burn them out and rotate them. No, I had a therapist that I went to for a long time when I was going through that season because I never had anxiety in my life. And he told me, he said, Dan, he goes, you have to picture anxiety in anything you go through in life this way. Anything that anyone has ever gone through, as long as they did not remove themselves from this earth, it eventually came to an end. The pain, the sorrow, the suffering, the disappointment, eventually, it's like a bell curve. It just goes up, but when you're here and you're going up and it's getting worse, you feel like it's like a roller coaster that's never going to come over the edge. It just feels like, is this going to stop feeling this way? But eventually, that rise in anxiety or pain or fear, whatever it is, eventually resolves like every other painful, anxious thing in our entire life. And I said to him, you're making me anxious talking about it. No, one of the best tools that because when I found myself feeling those things, I would say, it may not be the next hour, but this is eventually going to come down and you're going to be okay because you're still here. I told you good Danny was going to be here today. And if all you did this year was endure, that is not weakness. That is a great success partnered with the grace of God. That is not weakness enduring. I mean, look at my hair right now. It looks like I've endured something. I really haven't, but I'm going to skip, we won't do Joshua 3 and 4. I want to get to Elijah. If you read 1 Kings 18 and 19, this is a story. This is really one I want to major on, because if everything up to here, you're like, yeah, I know it. I want you to hear this, because this is interesting. The rest of it was interesting too, but Elijah in 1 Kings 18 is when Elijah is the freaking man. If you've never read it before, read it. It's wild. It'd make a great movie. You have these prophets who swear to this god called Baal, and they believe that they're powerful and they can do these things. And they challenge Elijah over and over and over again. They challenge Elijah to prove that God, his God, is more powerful than Baal. There's 450 of them or something like that, these prophets. And so they have this thing that goes down. It's like Bible time UFC, basically. This is full combat. And the prophets of Baal, they have this whole thing with these altars, and you can read through it. And Elijah, they're trying to call down fire from heaven. The prophets of Baal are just completely not getting any response. And Elijah has them soak the altar, the wood, to make it so that it wouldn't naturally burn. He's like, let me just show you how possible the impossible becomes with my God. And he has this victorious moment where he calls out to God, and God sends his fire down and consumes what is basically wet wood and the altar, and just completely shows out as powerful. And Elijah, I don't know about you, whether this is just an allegory, fictional, or it happened. The character in the story being Elijah would be pretty cool to have the old, you know what I mean? Fire now, right? Oh yeah, it's wet, that the wood is, watch that, right? That'd be pretty powerful feeling. So he has this victory where he defeats, if you will, and puts in place these people that are worshiping another God, and he's walking high and mighty. And then 2025 happens. Do you hear me? And Elijah finds himself hiding in a cave. The dude just got called down fire from heaven, and now he is scared and alone and worried for his life in a cave. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, I'm okay, God, if I don't see mountaintops, as long as you don't let me go to the valley. I'll just be cool if we're just on the plains. Because if one brings the other, I'm cool. Let's just cancel them out. The mountaintop's overrated. Anyone ever feel that way? Elijah has this great big victory, and behind it, and I don't know about you, but I have felt that this year, where you have some great victory and you feel like, I'm nailing it. I've got something great that's happened that I've worked hard towards, whatever it might be. Have a great weekend with Robin. And then boom, something happens. And it could have felt that way your entire life, or this whole year could feel like that valley for you. I'm telling you right now, this is what happens. Verse 4 of chapter 19. He himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came and sat down under a broom tree, and he asked for himself to die. This is the guy who just performed one of the greatest miracles in the Old Testament. He says, enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers. Then he laid down and fell asleep under a broom tree. But behold, there was an angel touching him. And he said to him, arise and eat. I felt the glory on that one. And he looked, and behold, there were 7 different types of chicken at the potluck. Biscuits and gravy, empanadas. There was at his head a round loaf of baked bread on hot coals and a pitcher of water. So he ate and he drank and he laid down again. But the angel of the Lord came back a second time, touched him on his shoulder and said, arise, eat, because the journey is too long for you. So he just kept getting up, eating, resting, drinking, eating, resting, drinking. Does it sound good to anyone? Eating, resting, drinking. For the next 40 days and 40 nights, until he got to the mountain of God called Horeb. All Elijah could do, this great, powerful man who just performed this incredible miracle, put this, this army of false prophets in their place and displayed to a whole city who the real God was, called down fire from heaven, and the only thing he could do for 40 straight days is get up, apparently wasn't even cooking his own food, eat, drink some water, and go back to sleep. Because surviving for Elijah in this moment was all he could handle, but it was enough. Before Elisha, Elijah's predecessor comes, who then carries the mantle of Elijah with, the Bible says, a double portion. That's a power up for you kids who play Roblox, okay? I don't even know if that's true. Anyways, before that comes, Elisha goes through the season of 40 days where he's scared for his life, hiding in a cave, and God says, hey, you know what? You know what is going to be the best recipe for you? Rest, take time. You don't have to prove to me your faithfulness by calling down fire from heaven right now. You don't perform your way into my blessing or faithfulness or good graces. Because what you're feeling in this cave right now is not because you messed up in the previous chapter. Oh, someone's got to hear me, because we got to undo some theology around here. Okay? We don't have karma in Christianity. Some of us wish we did on folks that we've, right? But this is not, well, let me look back to the chapter 18 and see where Elijah went wrong, because right now he wants to die. That's not what happened here. And one of the clearest messages I see here from God is, hey, maybe it's time to stop, rest, eat something, and if all you're doing is surviving, that's enough for me. That is enough for me as your creator. You're not disappointing me because you're not producing. And for a lot of our theological upbringings, it was souls, it was feeding people, it was the altar call, and all of that stuff is fine in the right context. It absolutely is. It was how many more people? It was the idea that we've got to do everything we can because time is short. And then when you find yourself in the cave, heaped upon you, beyond just the fact that you're in a cold, lonely, dark place, which is enough in and of itself, is then the burden of what are people expecting of me? Which oftentimes places itself or is represented in what we feel God is expecting of us in that moment. I have missed opportunities to do nice things for people and beat myself up over it again and again and again. And sometimes I didn't do it on purpose, and sometimes, frankly, I just said, I don't got it. I don't have it to give away right now. I don't have the emotional capacity to hear somebody tell me about how terrible their life is going in this moment, because my life feels terrible in this moment now. Anyone ever been there? And we do, and then we just feel like we're disappointing and not ultimately we're enough or we're performing the way God expects us. And the truth of the matter is we weren't designed. Now, why are you preaching this message, Dan? Because I need to hear it. We weren't designed to work day after day after day after day after day after day after day and not take the time to rest and to take care of ourselves. We weren't designed to do that, and we are less efficient. No matter how many hours we put in, we're less efficient. And at the end of the day, if we can't take care of ourselves, if we aren't in the right headspace, if we lose it, then we really can't do anything. And we need to take the shame away from the cave parts of our life. Do you hear me? And I've tried to do that somewhat as a pastor, because sometimes y'all will text me and say, hey, I'm not going to be there in church because I got this, that, or that going on, or whatever else. And I love when you're here. And I do think it's important that we have as many people gather here as possible, because you never know who's going to be walking in the door and see you, and you remind them of themselves, and they're going to feel safe and wanted here and all of that. But I've also made it very clear that if you've got to take time for yourself, take time for yourself. Because then you'll resent being in church. Like some of us end up resenting our work, or resenting family obligations, or resenting whatever it might be, because we know I haven't even taken time to just heal from the last year of getting the crap beat out of me. And we have to. It's why this morning I'm announcing I'm taking the next 2 months off. And Norm's gonna pay my salary. So, see how I set him up earlier for that? You've never given up on me. You've never let me down, Norm. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, we're going away for 3 days tomorrow, so that's a good start. Yeah, 3 days. Better not burn the place down. 3 days. We'll be back on Thursday. Or 4 days, 3 nights. But this is so beautiful, the care that God says, hey, I'm going to place an angel in your life day after day is just going to help you survive. And let me tell you, because I can end with this, and I will, because I think it's probably time. This got him to a destination. And the destination was a mountain called Horeb. The other name for that mountain is Sinai. Let's just look at that mountain and what it represents for a moment, and why it's important. Because we're told you have to do all of these things in this order and give of your life in such a way in order at the end of it to get the ultimate reward of what God wants to give you. And sometimes we not only lose ourselves along the way, but we never end up rediscovering ourselves. You can lose yourself. You don't have to be in ministry. This is a ministry. You can lose yourself in your job, in your family responsibilities, in your duties. You can literally lose yourself. And one day, all of that will be different. And then we'll be sitting there going, who am I? And that is scary. It's a scary place to be. But let me tell you what Horeb or Sinai is. It's the place where God revealed himself to Moses, his name to Moses. It's the place where God gave the instructions to Moses to write on the tablet. It's the place where God formed the foundational covenant with Israel. Horeb is the place where God first said, this is who I am. This is my, up to that point, he was nameless. This is where he reveals the very foundation of who he is and what his people would be, and the covenant, the promise he would make towards his people. So when Elijah runs there exhausted and afraid, he's not just escaping danger, but he's returning to the place. I need this to get in our souls. He's returning to the place of that foundational encounter. Those things that formed the good parts of who we are. Also, who we are. Like, sometimes we will go through these seasons of life, and I'm telling you, it's not, unfortunately, sometimes it's multiple cycles of this. Listen to me, church. You can play, Jim. It'll get me done quicker. These seasons oftentimes bring us back to a place where we rediscover, or sometimes discover for the first time, who we really are. They have a way of bringing you back and me back to, this is who you were. You shake off those things that have been said about you. You shake off those things that you've taken on that were never who you were. You shake off the shame, shake off some of the lingering pain and residue of years like 2025. You get back to this foundational place where you're like, now I remember who I am. I remember coming out of my season of my life, and when I began to preach and speak again, my mom and dad would oftentimes say to me, there's something different about you. You might even be saying the same words, but there's something different about the spirit of what you're saying them. You've lived them, you feel them, you know that what you're saying is true. You're not afraid to be, I'm adding some stuff because that's stuff they maybe should have said. But anyways, that's the gist of it. They said there's something different about when you're delivering, it's something different. You've experienced something. You've gone through something. And when you strip all that away, when you strip away the things that I'm going to tell you right now that we naturally hide behind, when you strip those things away, when you're no longer the fire breather, the miracle worker, when you're no longer the one that can perform and get up and do your thing, keep everyone around you happy and doing their thing, no matter how you feel on the inside, when all that gets stripped away from you and it's just you, as long as you choose to stay here on this earth, and I hope everyone does clearly, as long as you're still here, you will not only survive it, which is success in and of itself, but you will get on the other side and know so much more about who you were designed to be than you ever have in your entire life. You will feel life again. You'll feel that spark again, that energy again. You'll feel, I remember when I went through that season, I would not feel the things that I would tell myself, you should be feeling this way right now. Have you ever been there where you're trying to tell your emotions how they're supposed to feel, but you just don't feel that way? And then you feel like there's something wrong with you because you don't feel the way you should feel? Those things begin to change, to respond to things more naturally. You're able to see outside of the cloudiness and the blur of what you're experiencing and actually get beyond it. And no two stories are the same. No two experiences are the same. It could be a week in your life or it could be 10 years. I hope it's not. But on the other side of it is Mount Sinai, the place of that foundational encounter, that place that says, hey, Dan, this is who you are. Hey, Debbie, this is who you are. Hey, Brian, this is who you are. This is who you are right now. Yeah. You want to say something? You're going to pay my salary for the next 2 months?
In 1995, Karen wasn't 40 yet, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that makes for a bad year for her and me worrying about her. But by God's grace, we made it through. In 1997, I was at work, and I worked on the railroad, and I was getting up on the engine after doing a lot of things that day, and I got halfway up, and then my legs wouldn't work. And they came in an ambulance and took me off. And I was 43 years old, day before my 43rd birthday. And I've never worked since then. And I didn't get a golden parachute or anything like that. I just got hurt. But God brought us through. We had a 2-story house. I couldn't get upstairs to go to bed. But God brought us through. In 2020, Karen had breast cancer again. But God brought us through. Last year, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And that's something you never want to hear. But God has brought us through. He is faithful. Sometimes it looks so dark, and sometimes you say, why? And she asked God when she had cancer the first time, she says, why, God, why me? He says, who do you want me to give it to? No, nobody. But God is faithful. He's brought us thus far, and he'll take us through. That's God.
Will you stand up with me? Will you do that? I want you to make sure that you leave here understanding this Elijah story in this context will end this way. Elijah didn't need another showdown for God to show up in his life. Elijah didn't need another miracle. Elijah didn't need another confrontation with fire. Elijah didn't need to perform. Elijah didn't even need to barely get out of bed, cook his own food in this story. I mean, if you got someone to cook for you, great. But at Mount Sinai at Horeb, the mountain that Elijah eventually got to, God did not need to repeat the fire, and he didn't need to perform some powerful miracle the way we've seen it. The miracle was God wanted to make it clear to Elijah that his love and grace for Elijah and his presence in Elijah's life was there before Elijah's fear ever popped up. Before 2025 came, or whatever year of your life or thing that you've gone through, before that ever got there, God was with you before, during, and after, even when we don't feel it. And you're not bad for not feeling it. Sometimes you can only see it in the rear view, and that's okay. But you're here, you survived it. And Wednesday night, whether you're sound asleep or watching the ball drop or downtown or whatever it might be, when the clock hits midnight, the calendar rolls over to 2026, I tell you one thing right now, I'm already having a conversation with God. I am very cool if the bad parts of 2025 get left in 2025 and we move into 2026. Come on, victorious personally, as a community, as a nation, people who begin to love and communicate and welcome one another the way we were designed. I'm cool if 2026 looks a lot different than 2025. And I'm telling you right now, whether it's division or hatred or families being ripped apart, families that didn't even gather around a table this year because they have differences of opinion on politics and other things, all the stuff that we are experiencing that is taking away from our lives, I'm fine if 2026 doesn't have any of that. And you know what? I believe that 2026 is going to be about this very story where we return back to the mountain of Sinai and we ask ourselves, God, remind me who I am and let me get rid of all of the junk that has held me back and has lied to me about who I am so that I might function exactly the way you designed me to be, where I can find happiness and find joy and find contentment and find not just a reason to live, but a reason to thrive. I want that to be our year this year. I believe it's going to be for us in this room. And if 2025 was a great year, amazing. If you just experienced nothing but greatness, amazing. But I'm going to tell you, as I look around this room, whether it's an executive director of Project Pride, or it's over here a business owner who also coaches kids in wrestling at high school, or it's somebody who's retired, or whatever it might be, it's here today. Somebody who doesn't call his friend back to give him appointments for his hair. Whatever you do for a living, it's actually me. It's 100% me. I know. They know. They've tried to text me before, okay? Whatever it might be this year, every one of us is going to need this story in the back of our heads as we face the challenges ahead. Because sometimes we need to step back from believing our value is in the fire part and just survive a season and get through it so we can come back to who we were created to be. Make sense? All right, let's bow our heads. Father, thank you today for this word, and I am celebrating that we're getting a chance for a new chapter and turning over a new year. And I'm just asking for those that have experienced hardship this year, heartbreak, difficulty, setbacks, whatever it might be that they have gone through or are going through, I'm asking that this journey, as I know you will also be true for them, as it has been for many of us in this room, where when it felt like everything was being taken away, on the other side of it, we had much more than we ever imagined we would. And so, Lord, I'm asking for that encouragement, that new mercy every morning to be our portion together for this year. We don't need to wait till Thursday morning. We can start tomorrow morning. Close out this year just believing, okay, this too will come to an end, and God's mercy will be ready for me every day I wake up, and I can get through this. I will get to the other side, and things are going to be okay. Thank you for this today, this encouragement. It is both sobering to feel this, but hopeful to know that there is something on the other side. Bless your people today in Jesus' name. And everyone says, amen. Love you guys. Thank you so much. See you next week.